You're live.
Great.
Yay.
Thanks, Marty. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us for NAMI Maryland's 39th Annual Conference. My name is Sarah Weissman, and I am a volunteer with NAMI Maryland. I will be your moderator for today's session. This workshop session is Top 5 Things You Can Do to Foster Positivity in Trying Times, presented by LaTanya Eggleston from Higher Education and International Coaching Federation. You can read more about our amazing presenter, including her full bio, in the digital conference program on the official conference website. This past year has presented several tough challenges for people. Families, relationships have experienced financial distress, fears about health, and concerns about an uncertain future. This stress can be overwhelming. It is not surprising that reports of substance abuse and suicide have also increased. Yet, there are practical solutions people can apply to foster positivity, even in the most difficult circumstances. If this is not the workshop you meant to attend, please click the back button on your browser or click on the conference dropdown on the left-hand side of your screen and select Sessions from the menu to return to the full list of workshops we have available. We will be addressing questions at the end of the presentation. If you have any questions as the presentation continues, please post them on the social wall on the right-hand side of your screen. We will be reviewing questions as they come in, and if something in particular is unclear or needs to be expanded, we will ask after the presentation has been concluded. If you have any comments, concerns, technical issues, please post them to the social wall, and our technical assistant will address them accordingly. When posting on the social wall, please be aware that there is a 20 to 30 second delay between the presentation and the stream at Conference Tracker. When the workshop session closes, you will be prompted to fill out a brief survey. If you would like to receive CEUs for today's workshop, you must complete the survey in order to qualify. And now I'd like to welcome our presenter for today's workshop, LaTanya Eggleston.
Yay. Thank you so much, Sarah. And I also want to thank Marty for his technical support. And I just want to thank each of you for taking time out of your weekend to join this amazing NAMI informational conference. I want to thank NAMI Maryland's leadership for accepting my proposal to present a topic that I felt was certainly worth exploring and sharing with each of you during these times. So Sarah did a wonderful job in introducing me, so I'll go straight into the actual workshop. I am giving you eye contact now, and I'll look down occasionally at my slides, and I just wanted to just design that and identify that's what's happening because I teach communication, so connection with each of you is very important. I'm also a certified coach, so I do communication skills coaching, and I work with NAMI. I work with NAMI Maryland as their steering committee with NAMI Walks. Was very happy to be a part of that, and it's interesting because the theme, 5 things you can do fostering the positivity in trying times, one of my 5 connected with the work that we were doing with NAMI Walks. And you'll notice behind me is a beautiful waterfall. So I like to share that with the audience that this is Cascade Falls in Howard County. So just another beautiful location, opportunity to embrace nature during these times. So we'll go ahead and get started. I can be contacted via LinkedIn. So my first and last name is on LinkedIn. I'm also on social media. So you'll see that information there. Instagram and Twitter. So a lot of my Twitter tweets are about communication counts, how we communicate with ourselves, with others, and how that can also influence our fostering positivity. So we'll go ahead and get started with the slides, and thank you again for being here. What I do is really I coach and teach and train with people to be more confident with their communication. So this presentation will be kind of coachy. So I'm a coach and I support people like you, people who may just have concerns, challenges, questions, might be stuck in a certain space. And we basically, as coaches, support people from moving from point A to point B. So I ask empowering questions. So you'll see a lot of questions during this presentation that really help you find solutions to your challenges. I know the theme is top 5, but you get to create what the top 5 looks like for you. And hopefully you can do that through these questions that I'll ask you throughout the day. So let's pause for a moment, and I hope each of you from home, your office, wherever you are in this world, you're able to have access to a pen and paper and take some great notes. I love that Sarah invited you to ask questions at the end. We will have plenty of time to do follow-ups. You can ask questions. So here's some questions for you to get started. What is your greatest communication challenge? This is one of my favorite questions to ask people. Intra-communication is your communication with self. And sometimes I hear people say imposter syndrome, I self-sabotage. So whatever your greatest communication challenge is, pick any one of these or all of them. So number one, greatest, and we're going to do this like 30 seconds and keep it moving. We don't want to dwell on it. So please have a pen and paper nearby. Intra-communication with self, interpersonal communication. Because I know this conference is about mental health. And we think about families we're supporting, friends, maybe even employees, or you're working with a team where interpersonally there could be some challenges. What is your greatest communication challenge with others? Group, when you're working in a team, publicly, like what we're doing now, with an audience. So I'll give you about 10 seconds and we'll move on to the next slide. Jot down what comes to your mind. What is your greatest communication challenge in all 4 areas, or you can pick 1 or 2. Thank you for that. And with these questions, just so you know, as a coach, we get to explore and dive deeper. So I'm going to certainly give you an invitation later at the end. We're going to give you some great ideas on how to answer these questions throughout this workshop. But also at the end, if you need more diving a little deeper into exploring potential solutions or responses to these challenges, I'll certainly have my contact information at the end for you. All right, so let's move forward to stressed. Why is this happening? When we think about all these challenges that surface with people, I just have a couple of kind of thinking about what causes this stress. Think about and so when we think about stress, think about these challenges, here's what we would like to introduce to you: 5 senses. And that's where we came up with the 5. Utilizing your 5 senses to foster positivity. So today we'll just explore that during this workshop and look at how our core values support that. So there are about 5 things. Number 1, sight. When you think about these challenges, what do you see? What are you hearing? And I love the 5 senses because we think about how are we receiving information. When we think about what causes the stress, how are we responding to the 5 senses? What are we getting? So that hearing, what are you listening to? I love mentioning the ear gate. Sometimes what we listen to, who we listen to, can influence our emotions as well, influence how we communicate. So smelling, breathing, if you've ever had a certain aroma that may impact or trigger a certain emotion, I know that some clients will talk about aromatherapy, essential oils. It could be, going into the holiday season, there could be certain smells of fall that may impact in the spring. So what are we breathing? Tasting, from the kitchen to culture. So I feel like that's a lot to play with thinking about our 5 senses to foster positivity. And touch, stretch it out, reach it out. You'll notice I'll have a couple of resources and books that title of one book that we recently read in our team is Reach Out. So what are you touching? And I know during these times, it seems like the physical touch was taken away. We had connections with family members or friends. So there could have been some challenges around embracing positivity. However, we want to remind you, these 5 senses are so critical in how we receive and respond to events. And even if we had to adapt to how we receive and respond. So I want you to think creatively during this workshop of how you can utilize your 5 senses to foster positivity. There could be some things you were doing already, or some things that you'll explore and find out what you can do as we move forward. The big picture of your whole health. So as we're thinking about challenges and stress, I love the whole health wheel that's provided by our Veterans Affairs. In fact, I met them at a past NAMI conference. So I want to take a moment now to share the whole health wheel. And if it comes up beautifully on this slide, great. If it does not on the video, I have another slide that will zoom in and remind each of you, as we're fostering positivity, how your whole health, it starts with me. It starts with you. And you're in the middle of this mindfulness, the awareness. When you think about who you are, how you're responding to external events, things that you may or may not, you feel be in impact you may or may not be in control of. So let's look and explore moving the body, your energy, your flexibility, your surroundings. So when I mentioned your environment or the five senses, your surroundings, your physical and emotional, I brought up what essential oils, aromatherapy, ways that you can adapt, your even your space, even if your office is in the middle of, if it's in the middle of a small space at home, your virtual office. So how you adapt that physical and emotional, your personal development. So I want to applaud each of you again for being here, because your personal development, this conference is offering that. Personal life and work life, food and drink, your nourishment of your body, your recharge, your family, friends, coworkers, whether they're physically together or virtually, spirit and soul, and the power of the mind. So as we're looking at and thinking about the big picture of you, fostering positivity, and thinking about what's being blocked first. So we're defining the problem to really propose a solution. There's a need for change. And when we identify at the beginning of this workshop, we looked at, oh, wow, there are some challenges I have communicating and connecting or supporting. You get to define that. And the question now becomes, what's being blocked in your life and how is that impacting you? And some of you may have already identified that at the beginning of the workshop. You've identified it's impacting me because I have these challenges. So moving your body, we know that's a part of self-care, and thinking about, okay, if I'm having this challenge, and I've seen some teams do this right before they brainstorm and work together, teams meaning in the workplace and or could be family units. So when you think about moving your body, maybe it is, I'm sitting still, so let's get up and move. Let's stretch, let's go for a walk and have this conversation. Like I love to use the expression, let's walk and talk. So your surroundings, your physical, emotional. Again, I won't go over all of these because the Wheel of Health is available to each of you attending the workshop. And as I'm showing this, I just want you on the notes for you note takers out there to go ahead and identify, go ahead and jot down which areas do you believe is blocked. And as we move forward at the end of this workshop, we want to hear from you. At the beginning, you said these were the challenges. Now you're saying here's what's being blocked. So what can we do to kind of open that up and chip away at what's being blocked? Because we want to open that. And I have these clouds because we really want to think about and explore what's possible for each area or maybe one area. We want you to not feel overwhelmed doing it all, but pick one or two things where you feel like, number one, awareness is critical. And once you have that awareness, then you feel like, hey, I can have more control of moving forward with potential solutions to these challenges. And again, this workshop is dedicated to you. And I know sometimes people take information like, oh, they want to forward and hope to help other people. And that's great, but it really starts with self and how you show up and how you want to be in various areas of your life. Whatever your role is, this is really supporting in your awareness of where you are, what's being blocked, and what's available to you as you're expecting to and would like to foster positivity moving forward. So did you know, and this, again, we were looking for, I know some people, the 5 list, but again, the 5 is going to really be up to you and how you identify that. But did you know, #community, I use a lot of hashtags, giving back can actually lower your blood pressure, increase your self-esteem, and decrease stress levels. So one thing that I love as a coach to acknowledge or to have clients and people explore, what are your core values? What truly is important to you? Embracing that is a part of fostering positivity. And so for me, it was NAMI Maryland for mental health awareness. And so for you, thinking about how you are able to utilize and activate, and I use that as which five senses comes to mind for me? Really, probably hearing as I listen differently. And even when I use touch and I think about the feeling things that I did for the NAMI walks this year, NAMI Maryland for mental health awareness definitely supported that fostering positivity as we think about these trying times. So I have and I know at the beginning I shared with you all that we were looking at my social media feed. And so on Twitter, one of the things that you'll notice that I follow, and I tell students as well and clients that we follow um, topics that support communication empowerment. And so passiton.com is another resource that really embraces and identifies core values. So this, I just wanted to share a brief little example of, did you know giving back can lower blood pressure, increase your self-esteem, decrease your stress levels? So #love. And so as we're thinking about how you embrace love, if you wanted to jot down this resource, please do. This here is one example of how to embrace that and how to activate that. And when we show up, believe it or not, when we talk about fostering positivity, when we show up honoring those core values and being who we are with supporting the community, it's almost interesting how family follows. They pay attention and friends are become even more curious. So how do you want to utilize your five senses to foster positivity? Again, as we move forward, I'm going to share some personal examples, but please jot down your examples. I hope you came to this workshop looking for strategies, looking for ideas, and playing with this, even with your family members. I mean, you could pick each day of the week and say, we're going to focus on this. What do you see? What do you hear? We went to an event yesterday, safe, friendly event, where it was amazing to see how some of the kids were gravitating to certain colors that they saw at this event. And so it's like their sight was triggering some kind of happiness from certain colors. So it could be the flowers that you see or the colors that are changing in the season as the change of the season is taking place. So sight, again, I wanted to put this here just to remind you as we move forward. I'll share my personal examples, but you also, I would love for you to think about how you can identify your top five, and then I'll share at the end. So now, here is one, ways to foster your five senses. We have, if you can take a moment and breathe, I'm watching the time. We are about close to 20 minutes in. So maybe when you're working and you're thinking about 20 minutes, some people do an hour, you stand up and stretch, you take a breathing break. So what are ways where you feel like that stress is showing up at the beginning, that challenge is happening, you're getting ready to have a difficult conversation with a family member or friend or a coworker, and would a breathing exercise help? So thinking about, you're almost feeling and touching and thinking about your body. So I have a couple of breathing activities that you can find on YouTube. One of my favorites to share, I will share with you. Let's mute and skip. Let's skip the commercial. Thank you for bearing with me. So for you note takers and everybody else who's not note taking, let's just take a moment and experience the breathe bubble. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathe in calm. Breathe out anxiousness. Breathe in love. Breathe out stress. Release. Think nothing. And we'll pause there. All right. How was that? Write down a couple of words right now. And I know we're going to have a time at the end of the workshop for you to ask me direct questions, but I may ask you a question. What was that like? So I went full speed ahead, almost 20 minutes. And notice how my tone has changed a little bit. You notice that? That moment to breathe in and breathe out, to think about nothing. So sometimes it takes that to shift the energy that you may be feeling of at the beginning of this workshop. I asked you a direct question, what challenges you have, and you may be feeling anxious about a presentation. You may be feeling anxious about a conversation you need to have with someone. And it could take a breathing break, breathing in and breathing out. So you can play with, we talk about the 5 senses as you're breathing and taking a breath. You can play with if you need like maybe something to touch while you're doing that. You have stress balls, something to stretch your muscles during those times, or even a candle can be lit, and or essential oil can be lit, or a favorite fragrance during a breathing activity to prepare you for the words, or to prepare you for the emotional experience you want to have, which is being who you are, being, that relaxed state, and addressing and embracing those core values during that conversation. So this is an example of one way to really foster and embrace maybe all 5 senses at once. So taking a time to just really be, right? Thinking about what tools or strategies are in place for you to be. And what I love about being a coach is sometimes this happens naturally for people, and sometimes people connect to people like me to be an accountability coach, to really say, oh, this is the challenge I'm having this week, and here's what happened. And so we're able to come up with some strategies together through powerful questioning around what the challenge may be. So this is one activity that we're offering. Of course, there's so many out there that can really kind of calm you and ground you to prepare you for what may seem like a stressful event or experience. So what fulfills you about your work? I have this question, what fulfills us about our work? 5 ways to really nurture. So I picked a couple of things from that whole health wheel, and what you see on the screen right now is me sharing my personal examples. However, there's some research out there that supports some other examples, but I also want you to think and jot down some ideas in your journal, your notebook, for your team, for yourself, for family. 5 ways to really nurture your core values. So I have the word belongingness and love. So when you think about what just happened during this past year and a half, what challenges or what was blocked with your whole health? And so the example you see here, belongingness and love, family, friends, coworkers. So these are things that were happening prior to the pandemic. So being physically at an entrepreneurship studies institute and supporting and in sharing scholarship opportunities with students who want to start their own business. As you know, in higher ed, I work with groups and students here at Anne Arundel. And so that was one thing that, when you think about what fulfills you about your work, travel for work, these type of presentations, being able to be physically at a conference, and then, being baking. You'll see some pictures where some colleagues, it was interesting, club, being a part of the culinary club and being able to do a cookie exchange during the holiday season. So when we think about our core values and during these trying times, right, how do we adapt and change and still make an impact? Even though we're not physically, some people were not physically traveling, physically showing up at conferences, there are still ways to nurture and embrace these core values. So we'll leave that up there in terms of creativity and ways that you can still, here it was baking from home, shipping and sharing, still showing up virtually, still sharing scholarship opportunities. So it's just really about perspective and how you continue to identify ways to live what fulfills you about your work and the impact that you're doing. So how do your core values influence you and the people you interact with? So when we're fostering positivity, people, I want you all to know that other people are watching. Other people are watching. I believe you become role models. You're leading people. And some people are like, I'm not a leader, but someone in your family is watching you. If it is a child, to a family member, significant other, to your colleagues. So when you think about here, blocking, moving your body, stretching yourself, I want to challenge each of you to really stretch your thinking and your perspective. So we talk about, some people will say, oh, I can't do that, or I'm not able to do this. Think about how you think. When you wake up and you think about how will you move your body, you're looking at someone who's asthmatic. But during the pandemic, a couple of things, you adapted and changed and thought about, how do I get fitness in spite of what seems to be a challenge with getting cardio in. So you're still moving your body and stretching and being healthy. Belongingness and love and family, you'll see here. Again, all this connectivity no longer existed physically, but we got creative about these relationships still exist. The family and friends still need your support. Spiritual, the belongingness and love, and then we have spirit, soul, growing connection. You'll see me here with a group of youth doing a core value mining event with our church event here with family members and friends. So again, all of these things were probably happening prior to the limitations, our perceived limitations. But what is available now to you? What has been available? Think about how you were created with still having what seems to be blocked, but open opportunities. And then, what are you reading? I love this. And this has been probably one of the most powerful experiences when we think about our five senses. When I say, what are you hearing, or what are you listening to? What are you paying attention? What do you see? So what are you currently reading or rereading? What's available to you? Again, I would say, what are you paying attention to via podcast, via news? When we foster positivity, I had a couple of clients and even family members, so it wasn't all about clients and students, but family members who went from 3 hours of news a day to 10 minutes or 15 minutes. So really identifying, prioritizing what's important and identifying, yes, you want to be informed. We understand why people watch and listen to the news. However, you also want to support your own self-care. And if things are stressors in your life, we want to try to eliminate those stressors by, again, the awareness helps. And then in bringing in more, pouring in more of your day or time, prioritizing more of what brings you joy. And if what brought you joy was taken away by trying times, again, I want to say, exploring what's possible to still bring joy, maybe in a different way. So emotional agility, I have here, one of my favorite books here, Giving Voice to Values. And they can show up so differently. And then the Reach Out. This Reach Out book I mentioned earlier with personal development, because a part of reaching out includes NAMI Maryland. So when we think about our resources or what becomes what we believe and we know is a challenge of life, of support, our family and mental health, and the reach out is critical. And when people say we don't know what we don't know, that's why these conferences are so critical and important, because the reaching out is not just with family and friends, but also professionals. You have a lot of speakers that have been here over the last 2 days, sharing information. So as you're taking notes, not just for my workshop, but also for all these other workshops, are collecting information to know how to reach out, where to reach out, and pouring that into others as well. So sharing that, paying it forward to others. If you are on social media, sharing that information. So webinars that have already been pre-recorded, and then activating that, like really and that's how I found NAMI Maryland, from students in service learning, and they reached out from an assignment that they received, and then I began to reach out and make more of an impact. So there's opportunities for you to do that, and I hope that these are triggering some great ideas for you. And what it takes, this book, love, all of this. Stephen Schwartzman, What It Takes, the Lessons in Pursuit of Excellence. So we learn as we go. We are learning by doing. That was the chapter that sustains me. If you end up getting the book, that is the chapter that sustains me during this time. So as we move on, there's a couple of more things. I'm looking at time. I think we're good. We will move on to be you transformed by the renewing of your mind. You are light. Yay, you are. I truly believe each one of you are here because there is something about you that you've decided that is necessary to explore, to expand, and to share with others. So as you're thinking about the 5 ways to foster positivity that are connected to your 5 senses, it's interesting. So the examples that I give you, one example could really cover all 5 senses almost. So being transformed, but the one thing that I feel like is the ultimate support is thinking about the light that you are, thinking about your core values and who you are. So today I want to think about and ask you, what do you truly need? What resources are available to you, your employees, your clients, and your business right now? And what are some actions could you take to support your whole health? Okay. So these are some curious questions. What do you need? And I'll leave you with a list. I have a nice little list I'll share verbally with you as we identify and share 5 major ways. And hopefully at this point, you've kind of been following along, but I'll go ahead and overview as you think about what do I need? Opening up with the challenging question. Like, whoa, okay, I need a little bit more gratitude in my life. I need a little bit more time. I need more resources. And so sometimes whatever that it is, what do you need? And I really want you to think about what's blocked from your whole health. There were a lot of different areas of whole health. In fact, here's where I want to share your whole health wheel. Maybe I'll share that one more time with you. As we're looking at the whole health wheel, that's how I want, as we think about what you truly need as an individual or whoever or whatever your role is, and we write down or identify these 5 things that will support that. Moving the body, what do you need? Do you need more physical fitness in your life? So that's one way to foster positivity. Physical fitness doesn't mean, oh, I have to run a 5K every day. I need 10,000 steps every day. So your physical fitness can be what you decide it looks like. So if it's 10 minutes of activity, what kind of activity would you like to label or name? Okay, so if it is steps, great. If it's working in your garden, even wonderful. If it is, getting friends or family to really virtually walk with you or physically show up. I love, again, this background because we hit a lot of nature parks. We have coaching connection with nature. So there's a lot of walks, the safe walks that are taking place where you can get your activity, but moving your body, your energy and flexibility is how you want to define it. So number 1, fostering positivity. If you don't feel good, it's hard to physically or to mentally embrace positivity thinking if your basic needs aren't taken care of. So I'll identify you're moving with the body, that energy flow through your body, and then food and drink, what you're nourishing and fueling your body with. So number 1, how you move the body, your vibration, your frequency, that energy. You feel stuck and heavy. Sometimes I'll ask a client, are you sitting down? Or are you standing up? Like, let's move the body, because sometimes we get stuck in decisions because our body is stuck physically. And then so nourishing your body What are you pouring into? How much water are you consuming in a day? Tea, whatever you're able to nourish your body with, your fruit, your vegetables, right? So we love the meat too, seafood, we're in Maryland, we love the crabs. But the key here is what energizes your body and what makes your body heavy. If you're heavy, right? If the fried foods are making you heavy, okay? So it's your decision to decide how do you want to foster positivity. So in order to show up, it starts with your basic needs, okay? That's sleep, the movement, your nutrition. So as we're looking at this wheel and what else do you need, your surroundings. So I've coached clients about, just clearing out a small space. I had to be coached myself actually on my own workspace. So it applies to me, that's why I wanted to share my personal examples. But when you think about your surroundings, it's amazing how, if your desk seems a little cluttered, just moving a couple of items out. Okay, so it's like what needs to be adapted in your physical surrounding, your emotional surroundings, and that emotional is really mindset. Again, I want to stress what and who are you listening to, right? What are you paying attention to? And is it serving you? Is it supporting you, helping, or hurting? And that's when you have to take a couple of steps back and think differently about what am I paying attention to? Who am I surrounding myself with? And that surroundings can also influence how you embrace positivity or foster that in your environment, in your family, your workspace, whatever your role is. And then there are also some other items here, the power mind, the spirit and soul, family, friends. So you get to pick. You get to pick. So that's what I love about this workshop. I have my 5, you pick your 5, and think about what do you need moving forward. And as you embrace the positivity in the next, I'm going to say, I might almost give you a 7-day challenge. I love giving challenges. All right. So what resources? So again, if I'm unable to physically get out, then what other resources are available? If it's the internet, if it's like with some of my students, I even mentioned, if you don't have the internet, don't have Wi-Fi, we have resources that are available to you. Sometimes people don't know what they don't know. So it's great to talk to people. I think sometimes people feel like they're in a little bubble and they don't want to share, pride may impact that. So what we want to encourage you to do is to open up and share. You can be selective with who you share with, you just never know when you think about these resources on what's available and who can support that. And then the next, so here's my offering actually. As we reach the 12 o'clock hour, I wanted to at least give you 10 or 15 minutes to engage. I love to talk back. So a couple of things that I do as a coach and to work with each one of you, I want to do my call to action scheduling, shining your light on your core values. We can do that as an individual or a group to really see where you are, what do you need. Oh, let's go back. So I always open up with, thinking about your role and what 2 things fulfills you about what you do. So again, I want to say, when we foster positivity, monitoring how you think about what you think. In fact, here's where I want to stop sharing just for a moment so I can truly have your undivided attention about this. When we think about how we think, okay, monitoring self-talk, monitoring the conversations you're having with yourself. So I opened up today's session intentionally asking you communication challenges you have, and it started with intra-communication. So communication you have with self. So one of my offerings is to schedule a value mining. I do value mining on the go. So that means, we could do it from 30-minute session to an hour. As a team, as an individual, as a small group, families, friends. So thinking about, first of all, that awareness of who you are, what you represent, and these core values truly drive your decisions. And when we say your mindset, it helps and supports your growth mindset. And when we think about how we think, I think often you can hear people being negative about the state of affairs, being negative about how other people think about mental health. So there's always this little imposter or this voice that can come in and have these, negative thoughts about life, about the environment, the government, whomever, whatever. But my challenge to you is to really think about your house, where you are versus externally, and then how you want to be. That's a great start. The impact you want to have. That's a great start. The great start is the foundation of your core values. And so that's what we do. We want to nurture that. So fostering positivity means we want to cheer on and have more of that, the growth mindset, having more of those values showing up in every aspect. All right, so what I'll do now is I'll share again, and with hopes of, let's see here, getting you prepared for our closing. And I'll give you a couple of offerings, and let's get ready to start putting your questions in the chat. And here we are. So my first offering, of course, scheduling a Shining Your Light on Your Core Values. I have a worksheet that I can share with identifying your core values. I also have an accountability coaching app challenge. I mentioned I love giving challenges. If that's something you would like to do, reach out to me. I will have a direct contact if you want to join an app challenge over the next 7 days, 10 days. And to again, we can experience these workshops and these wonderful conferences. And what I tell people, the learning is great. The application is where it becomes a little challenging for some people. Okay, so it's like you soak in, you take notes, and then what are your next steps? So accountability virtual coaching app. So I really want you to think about whether you connect or reach out to me ever again. I want you to think of this. I will fill in the blank when I. So the I will, how will you foster positivity? I used a breathing app today during this workshop. So when I feel myself holding in energy or holding in stress, I will breathe when I feel myself holding that stress. I will, if it is, stand up and move my body and stretch when I'm preparing for a presentation, when I am getting ready for a difficult conversation, when I find myself experiencing what seems to be blocked with your whole health. So that's what this is about. When we think about mental health and awareness, or this mental health conference, it is certain things may be blocked within yourself and with others. Here's what's interesting. It can be challenging to see a blockage with others and you feel like you have the answer for them. But they have to, that individual, the people that you're interacting with have to have an opportunity to identify what's blocked first and how to open that blockage. And again, Nominee Marilyn responds to mental health. I'm dealing with whole health and responding to, when we think about individuals who are open, clear to responding to what's their next steps will be. And so everyone is capable of doing that. So that's what, it's interesting because this bridge here, I love to just share because I just like to show slides. I'm not a photographer, but I do take pictures when we do our walks. So this is the Woodrow Wilson Bridge from Maryland over into Virginia. So when I saw this bridge and this view, I thought about how fitting when we think about, our journey, where we're crossing into next week. So it doesn't have to be this, oh, I'm going from one job to the next, or I'm going from one experience to the next. It could very well be from today, what we've learned over these last 2 days, we're crossing over into next week. What do you want to carry? This track, you think about the tracks that we're on, right? That track is affiliated or connected to a metaphor to the impact that you want to have. So my wrap up and my gifts, we can leave at least 15 minutes to Q&A. I love questions, invite them, is I wanted to give shout outs to our Veterans Affairs Department because their whole health wheel I love and I embrace. And I also was interviewed for the Redefine You podcast, and Arundel Community College has a Redefine You podcast. And my proposal for presenting today was really based on this whole fostering positivity over the past year and a half. And so some of the things that you'll hear, not just from me, but HR department representative in this same podcast, perhaps would be of support or resource to you. So I wanted to offer that. In addition to that, if you wanted to schedule a discovery call with me, and you'll see my contact information here, you can text the business number there to receive the challenge or the app challenge, or before you go for the app challenge or even of that, just reach out to identify what might be important to you moving forward, to embrace that fostering positivity, to break down the blockage that you may be experiencing in different areas of your life. So I wanted to share my gift to you. I love that this interview, by the way, it's a YouTube. I will put it in the chat. It's a YouTube. I'm looking here. You should be able to see it. It looks here. Here we are. Episode 29. So I'll go ahead and copy this and make that available to you in the chat room. All right. So I'll do that now. Hopefully everyone has access to that. If not, our lovely, wonderful support team will make sure each one of you have that. And then notice too, I have another little photo here. And as I bring closure to my portion of this workshop, and this is a no trespassing zone. Do you notice I'm standing on the other side of this in Harper's Ferry, by the way? Oh, West Virginia. I have to get another. Love Maryland. Visit Maryland.org. And Virginia, and this is West Virginia, because I want to remind each of you, when it comes to your whole health, when it comes to fostering that positivity, your growth mindset, there should be boundaries, a no trespassing zone. Okay, so I love that sign to remind people to embrace, support your self-care. Know that there are strategies in place to help you foster positivity during trying times, and that includes setting some of those boundaries and letting people know that there is a no trespass zone when it comes to who you are, and especially your core values. Thank you for joining me for this workshop. I am what I call myself, and you'll notice, Professor Coach LE, and I'm so committed to your communication success because I believe communication counts. Thank you, NAMI Maryland, for inviting me and letting me participate in this most valuable conference, and I look forward to continued work in this arena. If you have any questions, I invite you at this moment to share your chats. I believe Sarah is going to read some questions. I'll stop sharing now. And I look forward to each one of you doing what you need to do as you move forward and embrace your self-care and letting your light shine. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for a great presentation. Was mentioned, you can post your questions in the social wall, which is to the right of your screen. When posting on the social wall, please remember there is a 20 to 30 second delay between the presentation and the stream on Conference Tracker. So please be patient as we review questions and comments. If we do not have time to answer questions today, please send your questions and the name of the session to connection@namimd.org. You can also use that if you want to connect with LaTanya. So we will see if any questions pop up.
And in addition to questions, I also want to invite people to share. If there was something that they wrote down, maybe there was a challenge they don't mind sharing, and or ways that they foster positivity. So at this moment, we would love to invite people to not only post questions, but we want to hear from you. What are some ways that you've been fostering positivity during these times? Sarah, not to put you on the spot, but did you have anything that you have done to embrace?
Well, I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, so I get positivity often from them, reading at night and just snuggling with them.
Yes. That's a great example. And that's something, thank you, Sarah, for that. So again, I'm chatting, but I want the audience to know, however many are here with us still, that you can still post for us. But one thing that we do forget when we think about fostering positivity, those beautiful people who are around us in our lives and the youth. And one of the photos that I shared, you probably saw, love and connection and family, was my nephew, my 9-year-old nephew. So it's like his energy. And it's interesting, sometimes when we get stuck and we get blocked, what would my 9-year-old nephew say? So that's a fun question to ask yourself. What would your 7-year-old self say if you don't have children, right? Or if maybe there's no children in your lives? Because I think as adults, sometimes we take ourselves so seriously, right? We get so stressed, and again, that block, and I'm holding my body because it's tension and we get blocked. We just need to breathe and relax and think about, yeah, kids get it. Pets get it, by the way. I think even pets get it. They're just free flowing, right? Love, connecting. So thank you for sharing that, Sarah. You didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I appreciate you.
That's okay. And I think that's a great example about why adult coloring books have become so popular, is that reminder to come into come in touch with our younger selves.
Yeah.
And we have a couple from the audience. One person said, I like to listen to music, pray, and meditate. I echo the music. I did this summer after a long year of isolation, ordering online seeds and bulbs. It was enriching.
Creativity in the garden. So I love the garden. I love the pray, meditating, and music. And, it's interesting because when we went into this, was it 2020? We were on our way to spring break, at college. So students were like, are we going to come back? And, so my last official class was on the 12th, but then it was Friday the 13th was that next day. And when we realized this was not going anywhere after spring break, then Easter was when, for the first time, we had not done I started doing this tomatoes. So I know when someone said they ordered these bulbs, and it's like, okay, flowers have been in the garden, but now let's start playing with creativity in the kitchen. So let's get some tomatoes going again. Let's get that going. So a couple of vegetables, no fruit, just vegetables showed up in the garden. And so a couple of pictures you'll see, for those of you who end up following me on Instagram, maybe some pictures, Twitter, I know I put some things on there about that gardening and how therapeutic that is, how, getting a little sun. And so that's just a beautiful thing to go from your garden that you've grown into the actual kitchen. It's like, ooh, we're eating cherry tomatoes. We've made our little, cherry tomato, which is interesting because I have a family member who cannot eat tomatoes. So it's like, I get excited about tomatoes, but that's okay. It's like being creative and playing with that. So it was something else that I noticed with the isolation and ordering. Whenever you did it, it's fine. And knowing that, ooh, okay, I'm seeing some more things pop up. I get excited when I see things pop up. But one thing that I wanted to make a point about is when we're looking at and thinking about what's possible. At that point, it was like, okay, Easter's here. We're not going back. We're planting some seeds and see what happens. So you'll see one of my favorite, I might do a repost, was around that Easter time in April of last year, which really, it was addressing and talking about planting seeds, but it was also it was a metaphor for how we plant seeds in our life. It was a metaphor for how open and growth-minded we are, and in how we are watering our mindset, how we are digging up that dirt and nurturing that. So, what kind of fertilizer are we using? And I think one of the things that came up in our mental health 101 at the college was some people use substance abuse, some people use, nature. So we have a choice on how we fertilize. And once we plant that seed and think about where we are, where we would like to be. And I believe that that support team that's around us can really help and support that. I love this statement, and I appreciate this person's openness. This one person in the chat says, I did not realize I had a block. I need to move more. And that's true. Sometimes we don't have that self-awareness. And so I appreciate your openness to that and sharing that. And we teach that in communications, by the way. I have to let my professor side come out of me. There's something called the Johari window. What we know, what we share with others. There is a blind window, and we can even play with that blind window in a coaching session. If you want to reach out to me as a registered NAMI conference member, just so you know, you do get a discovery call. So this is not like a sales, putting numbers or selling anything. You do get a one-on-one with me, reaching out, a discovery call, 15 minutes, and then we go from there. So understand and know that. Distance running while listening to comedy. Oh my goodness, yes. Comedy. So laughter. And in fact, Sarah's comment about the kids, it's interesting because they just find humor in things, right? And they are just a bright beam of light. We talked about you being transformed by the renewing of your mind. And again, whether there's children in your lives or not, we don't want to assume. We just want everyone to feel inclusive, that there are experiences to have. If it is comedy, when you say comedy, I've had a couple of clients that certain music can trigger different things. And we know that of research in the university. So we also say, what type of music are you listening to? I've had a couple of clients who didn't realize that their attitude and aggression was coming in from certain things they were listening to. So again, when we talk about your ear gate, and I don't want to say protect your ear gate, but just monitor. What are you listening to? And monitor your body. What energy are you feeling when you are listening to that? Because some people need certain energy when it's time to work out. So they're going to play a different type of music or different genre versus I need to study for an exam, or I need to prepare for a physical. Some people want to lower their blood pressure by what they're listening to, right? So, or, massage, self-massage. If you're not able to go do your massages, there are different techniques where, you and the spouse can do, massaging techniques to get that blood flowing. So there's a lot of opportunities and options out there. And again, we have a few things that we could share for self-care, but that breathing is so powerful, right? So what else do we see in the chat?
We have one more comment: working to keep elephant ear plants alive indoors. Laughing out loud in a few seconds.
Yeah. And you know what? That has actually popped up more than ever in Maryland. I feel like those can survive in different climates, but we recently took a trip to Bon Secours in Marriottsville. And I'm like, oh, are these elephant plants? Because we're looking for, we're doing some retreats, some mini retreats. So there's just some things that we're doing. And if you're not physically getting out, just so you know, we do things virtually as well. And so yes, working hard to keep them alive indoors. Yeah, I know in certain climates, my dad loves them. I actually need to probably tell him to take some pictures so I can put them on my slides. So thank you for whoever shared the elephant ear plants. Those are just a joy to see. And I feel like I'm seeing more of those in this region. And so at some point, I think you do have to bring them inside. So yes. But I think we did. Did we see everything in the chat?
Yep, that's everything.
Everyone has my contact information. I was going to put up the slide again, but I don't think that's necessary because I'm sure they have my contact information in the description, or at least if you have my name, you can reach out via LinkedIn. Again, I am on Professor Coach LE on Instagram and also Compounds on Twitter. So depending on what your needs are, we truly want you to know this workshop can be encored. I would love to do this for other teams. If this is something of value and you work with groups and you would love for me to come and do a workshop or smaller version of the workshop, would love to do that, and or I can work with you one-on-one. Thank you so much, Sarah, and I appreciate Marty and again, the entire NAMI team. This workshop, in fact, the entire conference has been just a joy. And I look forward to checking out I'm glad you're recording this. Is there something everyone needs to know that it's accessible later?
Yes, thank you. When this workshop session closes, you will be prompted to fill out a brief survey. If you would like to receive CEUs for this workshop, you must complete the survey in order to qualify. The next workshop session begins at 2:20. Be sure to check out NAMI Land and other amazing virtual resources in our virtual exhibit hall. Don't forget to participate in our resource scavenger hunt. If you find all the listed and submit your answers at the end of the conference, you'll be entered in a raffle for a DSW messenger bag. Thank you again for a great presentation. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope you